What's up, everybody? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and today we've got an interesting video where we're going to react to JJ Vallow's grandparents giving an interview now that they have heard that Lori Vallow is competent and fit to stand trial for what they believe she did to their grandson. We're also going to hear what their son and JJ's biological father has to say about it. They read a statement from him, and they have some serious thoughts about whether or not this was legit, her entire I am not fit or I'm not mentally competent to stand trial, or if that is par for the course for Lori Vallow in their opinion. So if you enjoy this Vallow Daybell content, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our page. Hit that reminder bell so anytime we put up a video with this content, you can make sure you catch it and don't miss anything that we put out. So we're going to jump into this video right now, and we will react to some of the things that we pull out that are very interesting. And these grandparents could potentially be witnesses in the case, or they could at least potentially cooperate with the prosecution about what they know, about what JJ's dad knows, which is their son. And we can see exactly how they feel about the case. And because the victims, unfortunately, are no longer alive, the victims' families kind of stand in their shoes and are their voice to the public.
So Kay and Larry, thank you guys for doing this. First of all, I know it's been a busy day, but you know, here we are. The hold on Lori's case is now lifted. She's fit to proceed, stand trial. How are you feeling right now that she's going to be able to do this alongside her co-defendant, set for January 2023, as all things have been documented right now?
I think for me, it simply proves the fact that she's been plaguing the system so long in her life, and this was just a continuation of that. And she's finally played it out. That's my personal feelings.
So there you go. Right off the bat, you hear she's played the system. This is how she always does it. This is not a surprise, but I'm glad that now she's going to face the music.
I am elated. I'm relieved.
Absolutely.
I have waited for this day for 270 days.
Yeah.
Just like with everything else in this craziness, it took 9 months for once we realized JJ was missing. It took 9 months for them to find their bodies, and then now it's 9 months that this has been put off because of her competency issues. So you know, here's another 9 months, and then what is it? April, May, June, July. So another 9 months, and we'll get to trial. 9 months.
Yeah.
So she talks about everything's delayed, everything's going slow. That's how everything's kind of gone in this case. She's not surprised by it, but I think that they have a pretty good disposition. And imagine what it would be like if you lost someone, if you lost a loved one, and everything has stayed. Now, I did a video on this and how it's important that we do this because defendants need to be competent. They need to understand the charges against them. They need to understand what's happening. That's a constitutional right. We have to make sure we protect people with mental illnesses. But at the same time, both things can be true, where the victim or the victim's families can feel like this is so unfair. It can be a serious struggle for them, and we have to understand it from both sides, which is why when we write rules as lawyers and statutes, we understand that there are going to be more people affected by this than just the criminal defendant or just the victim and the victim's family. We have to consider everybody when we write these rules to make sure it's fair and everybody's feelings are taken into consideration, but we have to do what's right.
Well, the last time we've seen Lori on camera any sort of way is May of last year when the indictment came down. So will you both be at the Fremont County Courthouse for this arraignment, and just why is that so important every time there's a development that you guys show up to this area in Idaho?
We haven't seen her since I guess that was her arraignment in March 6th or 7th of 2020, and this is the first time we'll be able to see her since they found the kids, since all these other things happened. So it's very important to us to make sure she knows we are following this through and we'll never stop.
You know, when we were in court with her, not one time did she bother to look at us, her son, or anybody that was sitting with us. Not one time.
So that's interesting, you know, because we talk about, you know, victims that testify or victims that are at the hearings and why are they there? It's open, they can be there, and how the defendants act, what we think they should look, what we think their disposition should be like. People are commenting on Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's disposition while in court. And a lot of times they talked about Ronnie O'Neal when that trial was going on, what his disposition was. They're watching, they're looking, everybody's eyes are on the defendant. So they have to be careful what they do. And a lot of times you don't want them making eye contact or trying to talk to the victims or the victims' families. So it can be held against them by the victims' families like it is here. But sometimes they're between a rock and a hard place, even if they're pleading not guilty especially, or they're saying they didn't do it. It's really not a good look to try to convince somebody with looks or with words while in court. So, I understand where they're coming from, but it's difficult for the criminal defendant to have the right facial expressions or looks on their face according to all the media, all the witnesses, all the people watching, all the victims. So it's a difficult position to be in, obviously.
This time, I think at some point she's going to have to look us in the eyes. And I cannot wait, because we are not giving up on this. She has played the system her whole life, and we're not going to let her get away with this. And we're going to be there in full force with so many other of our friends and supporters and everybody that supports us through television, through the social media. And I can tell you, since the moment that I got your post, our phones have not quit going off there. It's the worldwide support, and we're going to be there. She's not going to get away with this. He's not going to get away with this. And we're going to be there. Absolutely, we're going to be there.
And Justin, I also, when you called earlier to ask about doing a Zoom, I was on the phone with my son, Todd, and he asked to release a statement.
Yep.
Since he can't do a Zoom. And so we he's never done this before. So anyway, I'm going to read what he said.
So this is the statement from JJ's biological father.
That he is extremely happy the case is now moving forward. A huge weight has been lifted, and words can't explain how he feels. And he said, this is now this is the beginning of their end. And he is very happy that he will be at the trials next January.
Yep.
So it's interesting to think, a weight has been lifted, because a part of them, as the victim's family in this situation where the case has just stayed, they have to think, maybe she's never going to get to trial. Maybe she's never going to face her punishment for this. Maybe we're never going to get closure. Maybe we're never going to get proof of who did this to my son or my grandson. So a huge weight has been lifted that at least they're going to get their answer. They're going to get finality. They're going to get closure. And they assume that she's going to be convicted. So, it is a big weight off of the victims or the victim's family's shoulders when at least the case will begin to move forward this far after the death occurred. They went missing, the stay because of the competency issues.
And again, so for people who don't know, this is coming from JJ's biological father, Todd, your son.
Todd Trahan, JJ's biological dad. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up a good point, because the last time you saw her face to face was March 6th when she was extradited, after she was extradited to Idaho from Hawaii. Ever since then, it's been Zoom hearings, and the indictment came. You saw her on this little bitty screen, but now you can actually see her in person, and she's finally being arraigned on the murder charges, because people forget that she's actually never been officially arraigned. She's accused.
Right.
But now it's time to proceed with the case on her behalf, whereas Chad's case has been moving along, and now there's no severance. They're going to stand trial together as we know it. But how frustrating was it to see, all these court filings, especially recently on Lori's behalf, was sealed from the public, the unknown of it all. Was that frustrating?
Honestly, I try not. It is frustrating, but I just try to take it in stride, because we have a marathon to run, and this is we can't wear ourselves out worrying about every little heartbeat of the movement of this case. We can't. And I've actually backed off of social media. I can't watch all this all the time and expect to regain some type of life. So I've backed off of that, but my big thing is seeing her in court this time. Last time she had on her lipstick and was rolling her eyes in the court. This time, well, I don't know about the lipstick, but I doubt she'll be rolling her eyes.
So interesting. Do the sealed court documents bother you? And we think about that. And that's something that when we don't want motions or orders or documents to be sealed, we argue that to the judge. Not only do the victims and the victims' families have a right to see this, but the public. And a lot of people in the media are saying, why aren't we seeing these filings? We need to see these filings. What's going on? Is this legit? Is she working the system? There is a huge pull to not seal documents. So when they get sealed, it is a high legal bar to cross, and this is one of the reasons. The victims' families have a right to know what's going on, especially when they believe the criminal defendant in this case is just working the system, because we don't want that in our criminal justice system. But she also has some wise words about how she can't, lose her mind about every little thing that happens in the case. She's backing off social media. Wise words for somebody that's so close to the case.
And that
if she
is what I want to
does,
see.
it don't make any difference.
Yeah.
That's,
if she's still smug.
she's on the other side of that fence now. She's on the other side of that gate. And at this point, she's still going to play the system. Don't ever think she won't try to. That's just Lori. It is.
It has been now like a near 3-year journey for all of you. Do you feel any closer to justice with this development?
Yes, this is honestly probably the closest I've felt to justice since everything began, because at this time in 2019, Charles had just moved to Houston. I was there with he and JJ, helping him get settled. And I think it was April the 12th, actually the next day or two, that she went to Houston after being gone for her 58 plus another 12. So it was 60 or 70 days she was gone without seeing JJ. That's another anniversary that I think it's tomorrow or the next day that she landed in Houston. She and Tyler drove to Houston
Tomorrow. It is tomorrow.
And so, just again, another anniversary, and something great like this is happening. So that just shows me that the Lord's watching and he's got his hand on this.
I'd like to ask, despite the extension on the mental health commitment, you said before when we talked, you felt Lori was malingering through all this. Do you still feel like she never needed any treatment at all? Do you feel like she's thought about what has transpired in the state hospital?
I don't think she has thought about anything. I honestly, I won't know until I see her. And that if she's stone faced, then to me, she has set her mind on believing Chad's craziness, and that's where her mind's going to stay. And I do believe she's that strong-willed enough to keep that separation there. So I don't know. I won't know till I see her. I don't know how we're going to feel seeing her. I don't know. I just know that we'll be there, and just that this is very important to us for her to know that we are right there. Just like Larry couldn't attend Chad's preliminary or whatever that hearing was in August of last year, but it's just very important for us to be there and for them to know we're there.
So, and she did mention something interesting. We're going to see, so they don't know if she has mental health issues. That question is like, trying to get them to say something inflammatory probably, but she did mention something interesting. I'm going to get there and see. I think she still believes all of Chad's craziness. Chad being Chad Daybell, obviously, the co-defendant in this case, which it seems like JJ's parents think is the ringleader and pulled Lori over to his side, and he is the reason all of this happened, maybe, if Lori is believing all of Chad's craziness. So that's an interesting little tidbit from this interview, legally speaking, that maybe Lori's lawyers will tell her, maybe we need to point the finger at Chad.
What I'm excited about is sitting in that courthouse, close as we can to them, just like I did with Chad, and watch who stabs who in the back first.
well, I don't know if that'll come. I don't know if that'll come out in the arraignment, but this
Oh,
should be
this
quite a
should,
ride.
this should be a ride. It should, to see
Buckle up.
who's going to blame who first,
Yeah,
and
buckle
what
up.
lawyer is going to blame the other lawyer. It's going to be I'm not going to say it's a 3-ring circus, but I'm going to say at some point it's going to turn into a circus.
Oh, it already has.
Yeah, no, I mean face-to-face circus.
So, and there they go. They say who's going to stab each other in the back, who's going to point the finger first. Now, for anybody watching, they're a little bit giddy and a little bit happy about this when we're dealing with a case that their grandson was murdered. But you have to realize how heavy and hard it's probably been throughout their process, thinking that the person responsible could get away scot-free. And now they're thinking, yes, justice is going to happen. Both of these people responsible, we hope they bite each other's heads off, basically. That's what they're hoping for. They are a bit giddy for my liking, personally, for a victim's family. But I understand where their excitement comes from, that finally justice will be served. The criminal justice system is not letting them down. So that's kind of, I think, why they're pretty excited about, what's happened with Lori being found fit and competent to stand trial.
What would you like Lori to know?
I can't
Well,
wait.
lastly, what would you like Lori to know is she could be finding out right now that she's going to be transferred from the Department of Health's custody to the Fremont County Sheriff and be arraigned on murder charges. What would you like to remind her?
That whatever happens in the darkness always comes to light, and you can't run from your crimes, and you're going to have to pay on earth.
The truth will always come out. Even if you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
No matter how long it takes.
No matter how long it takes,
It's
the
gonna
truth
come
comes
out.
out. And I think she's going to have to deal with that. And so is Chad. I mean, it's not just Lori. They stood side by side, and two children were murdered.
So very interesting. The truth will come out. Whatever's in the dark will always come into the light. Very wise words to live by. And so that's what they want. I think that's also a great answer. They're not saying, I hope she, dies or something like that. They're saying the truth is going to come out. And they fully and wholeheartedly believe the truth is that Lori and Chad committed these crimes. So they want the truth to come out. They want the light to shine on darkness. So we'll see what happens. But very interesting to hear the perspective of a victim, what they think when they see the defendant in the courtroom. A lot of people on this channel talked about the lipstick and her hair and how she looked and how she was rolling her eyes. Well, the victim's family sees that as well. They have feelings about that as well. So you guys are a really good microcosm about what potentially lay people or jurors might think when they see Lori in the courtroom, how she's dressed, how she's looking, what her mannerisms are, who she's looking at, if she's rolling her eyes. So that's what's really interesting about this. Let me know if you have any questions about this case and like the video on your way out. Thanks for watching this episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you like this content, please share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like our videos. If you want some interaction, get in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to know any more information about our firm or this page, you can find out in the description or visit tragoslaw.com. We post multiple times throughout the week, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notification and not miss out on the next episode.